Hola, ¿qué tal? Hello there. I'm Robert Martinez, State Historian of New Mexico, and this is New Mexico History in 10 minutes. Jean-Baptiste Lamy, Bishop of Santa Fe, after he arrives in 1850, starts trying to change things in Catholic New Mexico. He noticed that the local population were, in his eyes, lax in tithing. So, not soon after he arrives in the 1850s, he issues a pastoral letter at Christmas time that he mandates all the priests read in their churches throughout northern New Mexico. Essentially, what he was saying is that all Catholics were mandated and ordered to tithe 10%, or sacraments like extreme unction, the last rites, would be withheld. This does not sit well with Padre Martinez of Taos. Padre Martinez in the 1830s had fought with the official Catholic Church down in Durango, Mexico, to get a dispensation for the New Mexicans who were, for the most part, poor people. To have to tithe was quite a burden. So he tried to get them a dispensation to release them from that 10% tithing mandate of the Catholic Church. So he was successful. He was able to stop that. And so during the remaining Mexican period, New Mexicans were not obligated to tithe. Now, they would help the local priests. They would maybe give an animal or part of their harvest to a priest, but they were no longer required to pay for baptisms and marriages or to have a mass said for a loved one who passed away. So when Bishop Lamy issues his pastoral letter, this really gets to Father Martinez. And we're not sure about all the particulars. Technically, Martinez should have, and maybe did, privately speak with the bishop and tell him, you can't do this. And according to canon law, he could not do that. We have to remember, Father Martinez was a very intelligent, highly educated priest. He was an expert in canon law, and so he was able to see these subtleties and nuances and address them. Ultimately, he made his grievances public, which got the attention of the bishop, and this obviously will be a problem. We're dealing with two different types of Catholic thinking coming into conflict in New Mexico in the 1850s. Lamy was from a part of France that had deep undercurrents of Calvinism, and there are some indications he might have been tainted, if we can say that, by a Catholic heresy called Jansenism. Jansenism is a very rigid, puritanical form of Catholicism that would not have sit well with someone like Father Martinez, trained by Jesuits and used to dealing with the eccentricities and unique aspects of New Mexico's Nuevo Mexicano and Puebloan and Genízaro populations. So we know that Lamy got into a little bit of trouble back in Cincinnati when he suggested to his bishop that sacraments be withheld from those Catholics who did not tithe. So he didn't create this idea in New Mexico, but he brought it with him. And soon this turns Martinez and Lamy into battling entities in New Mexico. And what we start to see is that the local Catholic population starts to become divided. And this isn't new. New Mexico's population had been divided for centuries before, when there was conflict between civil governors on one side and Franciscan priests on the other. Some of the settlers would side with the governor. Some of the settlers would side with the Franciscan priests. So we had a tradition of doing this. But some of the folks, especially in places like Taos and Mora, tended to side with and support Martinez, who by all accounts was probably an intellectual superior to Lamy and could really let him have it. And both were very intelligent, both were very charismatic speakers, and probably had egos to match. So others would side with Lamy. So what happens is Lamy starts to go after Martinez and go after the priests he trained and replace them with his own French priests. And things got to be so tense that these factions move into their own corners. They move into their own corners. Lamy is trying to change the people, the architecture, and one of the elements he goes after in the local population are the penitentes, los hermanos penitentes. Lamy thinks this is a pagan, Native American, bloody practice that's Catholic in name only, and he really wants to put a stop to it. On the other side, Father Martinez is a defender of the penitentes. He recognizes the value of having local men who weren't ordained or part of the official hierarchy of the Catholic Church be spiritual leaders and community leaders in their towns. And he believes, and rightfully so, that it could be too much of a shock to remove them from the local population. They've been part of the scene for about 2, maybe even 3 generations already. So they're part of New Mexico's Catholic tradition, just like the Santos that Lamy didn't like, or other aspects of New Mexico's spiritual Catholic expression. So this is the battleground that's set. And ultimately, as Martinez, who's older than Lamy, reaches age of retirement, he steps down, but remains in Taos and is still a very popular leader with a strong following. Lamy really wants to let Martinez have it for having challenged him publicly over the pastoral letter and other reasons. So what happens is Lamy appoints a Spaniard, Taladrid, to be the priest in Taos. And it almost looks like he's really poking Martinez, challenging him, because Taladrid goes in there and challenges Martinez's popularity, his authority. At one point, the spark that lights the flame of a conflict is a niece of Martinez wants her uncle, Padre Antonio Jose Martinez, to marry her and her novio, her fiance. Well, Martinez asks Taladrid permission because Taladrid is the priest with authority in Taos at the time, and Martinez tries to follow the rules and regulations of the Catholic Church. Well, Taladrid, being arrogant and an outsider from España, from Spain, tells Padre Martinez, no, you can't do that. Well, Padre Martinez is no pushover. He's been around the block a few times, and he defies Father Taladrid, and he oversees the wedding anyway, the marriage ceremony, the nuptial mass. Well, this does not sit well with Lamy, and Lamy accuses Martinez of disobedience, and he may have a case there. Martinez hits back, saying that Lamy is not following canon law when it comes to how priests are supposed to administer the sacraments. They're not supposed to charge people for them or make money off of them. So this leads to one of the most controversial aspects of this conflict, and that is Bishop Lamy excommunicates Padre Martinez. This creates a schism in New Mexico's Catholic Church that will have effects for decades and decades to come. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Hasta pronto. Goodbye.